What's up, y'all? What's going on? Another edition of Conversations of the Heart. We are going to get the queen in the building, Lorena Jorge. Today we're going to talk a lot about perseverance. That's going to be a hot topic today. So let me see. Lorena, I see you in here, so if you can just tap in. Yeah.
Bro, what up, baby?
Hey!
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
My first
First
time.
off, first live. First off, thank you for doing this. It's incredible. You know,
My pleasure.
you've been, you know, for people who don't know, we've been rocking since '98 hard, not like off and on,
Not
but hard
all strangers.
since on, since '98.
Not the data.
Yo, yo, it's crazy, but I got to do it though, because it's so important. Because I was just telling you that we've been having real conversations since we was about 13, 14 years old
Yeah.
about real life things, like real life things. You know
hmm
what I'm saying? So of course, that I have this platform, in the show and this podcast. I said I gotta have you on because people gotta hear the stuff we talk about, just to be a fly on the wall, just to hear the conversations that we have on a normal basis for the last 20,
20 years.
20 something, 20 something years.
Family,
I'm not going to say the exact
friendship,
number, yes.
careers.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So first off, appreciate you again. You are a queen of the highest order. You're such an amazing person for people who don't know. You know what I'm saying? You are an amazing soul, an amazing individual. You do a lot for people, and I appreciate the role that you've always played in my life since I've known you. So, thank you.
I
I
appreciate
appreciate you for
it
real.
likewise because you've been there all through it too. The ups, the downs, the
Ooh,
lows, the fights,
we we've been through it
the
all.
hunger.
Uh, yeah. Um, so first off, I just want to say the video, because I want to get into this video that you did.
hmm
That was absolutely amazing. It was inspiring. It was I didn't ex I expected it from you, but it came out of that field. So like when I saw it, I was like, oh, I think I watched it like 5 or 6 times um to hear the message. You know what I'm saying? And it was about, you know, what happens between the Latino and the Black community, and embracing, and Latinos embracing, their heritage and their Blackness. So one, why? Like, why did you make that video? So let's start there. Why did you make that video?
It was it's so funny because if I'm honest, I always start
Hmm.
writing out of kind of the spur of the moment of what I might be going
Hmm.
through, what my thoughts might be happening. And one of the things that I
Hmm.
started noticing is people that I had known that never identified as Black, but that were Latino, kind of started jumping
Hmm.
the bandwagon. And
Hmm.
I was very much like, hold on, we
Hmm.
nation,
Hmm.
and you've blatantly denied or wanted to be associated with your African roots. To
Hmm.
the degree that there's no acknowledgement. And so
Hmm.
I was very disheartened, but also uh, somewhat glad that people were at least joining, trying to
Hmm.
acknowledge their roots, but I wanted it to be from an
Right.
authentic point of view, where
Right.
because I've known some people that are now trying to wave the, oh, I have Black, I'm proud, and so forth and so on, where I know them
Hmm.
personally, and I'm just like, you never did. I think there's
Right.
much more truth and much more change if you were to come out and say and be honest about your experience where you didn't necessarily associate yourself and you've learned
Hmm.
somewhat of your history and now you have a different take, because I think that in
Right.
itself ends up, I want to say, teaching others more.
Right.
In my opinion, it ends up showing how we're human, how we're flawed, how
Mm-hmm.
we might have a point of view that we were brought up with, but through our experiences, it has changed us, you know, and or maybe
Mm-hmm.
just taking the time, because obviously now we got a lot of time,
A lot. Mm-hmm.
a lot of time to really research and really start to ask questions that you didn't necessarily ask yourself. Um,
Right.
so that video came about where I saw some posts and I was just like, no, this is not your truth. Why don't you just say your truth and come out? And I was very fortunate, right? Where I can say that my background, you know, my mom personally,
Beautiful woman.
you've
Beautiful.
been you've
Mm-hmm.
been to my house, you see the
Beautiful.
sculptures, the paintings, you know, my mom's
Mm-hmm.
name, you know, her nickname is Morena, which means brown,
Mm-hmm.
dark skin, black, in
Mm-hmm.
Spanish. And so I was very lucky to have my immediate family where they accepted and embraced their African roots. And it's not to say that all of
100.
my family did. Now, I was very much
Mm-hmm.
around family members that were like, "What are you talking about? We're not black. You're not black. What are you saying?" And I'm just like,
Right.
well, my granddaddy darker than like you darker than my grandfather." So,
Mm-hmm.
and that in itself was very interesting for me, and how some people kind of cling on to things that resonate with them more so than others, and
Mm-hmm.
as well as how so many people don't know their history. You know, I would ask people in the United States, you know, where is Hispaniola? And most people wouldn't even know that that's the Dominican Republic and Haiti, where in fact Christopher Columbus landed. And it's just like, in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
been brainwashed so much that we don't really know our history. We don't really um go ahead and embrace it. And that's all throughout all cultures. You know,
Right.
that you want to speak about, you know, a lot of people, as you know, I do makeup. I've done makeup for many years as a side hustle to my
Mm-hmm.
acting. And it was amazing for me to see throughout all cultures how they've always wanted to be fairer, how they've always wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be lighter. And I'm just like, but you're this color. Like, why are you,
Right.
you know, and it has
Mm-hmm.
to do with how we've all been taught to think whiter is righter, you know, white is
Mm-hmm.
right. And how in all cultures, whether you're Middle Eastern, whether you're black, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Asian, um,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter. You would always seem the chosen one if you were fairer, you know. And that in itself, you know, it spoke to me a lot about also the struggles that the Afro Latino does have in
Mm-hmm.
America, right? Because it's not only solely that, I don't ever see it as some people having to have the responsibility to acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
it, um, because some people don't know better, also.
True. Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to, in the process, you know, I wrote it down just at a spur of the moment. Latinos is about time. I was just like, you know, I was kind of going in feeling like a rapper.
Yo, listen. You gave us some hot bars. You had some hot lines in there. You had some hot bars in there, and I was like really taken back. But you know, the whole video, the way it looked, the videography, the cinematography of it, like everything was amazing. Um, and your words were just on point and inspiring and very touching. You know, it's like I said, I sent it to a lot of people and I watched it myself 5 or 6 times and I was just
Thank
like, yo,
you.
this here, I said is amazing. And it's something that I just applaud you for because you weren't afraid to step up. You know what I'm saying? Which you never are. You never scared. I already know. You never scared.
Me.
Yeah, you know. Um, you always push the bar and push the limit. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for doing that video. And I salute you for doing that video. And for everybody who's watching, go on her page and Lorena Jorge 22 and look at this video. I probably, you know, I don't know how many down now it is, but you know,
Not that much down. I'm
you'll
still
see it.
work on my posting game. I don't
You
really
know,
post
in
that much.
fact, I'm, in fact, I'll share it again on my stories, but it's a video that should be seen by a lot of people. But if you can, just go to her page and search for it. It's not that far. It's maybe like 6 posts down or something like that. But it's truly amazing.
Thank you.
So let's talk about creativity here. Because I kind of got excited. I was going to give you this amazing introduction, then I got excited. But you are an actress, a writer, a producer, a director,
Mhm.
a host, a makeup artist. I mean,
Mhm.
you have a laundry list of accolades and things that you've been involved in. You know what I'm saying? So you being a creative, like
Mhm.
how do you tap in to your creative genes? Like how do you tap into to that? Because there could be somebody younger or not, but who is looking to write a play, a
Mhm.
movie script, or a book, or whatever it is. Like how do you tap into your creativity?
I think one of the best things that I can always recommend anyone is to tell your story, you know, to to touch on something and speak on what you know. I definitely it becomes a lot harder when you're speaking on things that you don't necessarily know, and that's when you
Of
really
course.
have to make it your responsibility to research and find out as much as information as you can, because like Latinos, it's
Hmm.
about time. I knew history, but I also wanted to tap into other history, other
Hmm.
U.S. history to show the similarities that there are within how the Latin Hispanic, like the Hispanic Americans, were conquered as well as the U.S. in and that kind of double dynamic of the slavery that there was in the islands, just the same way as the slavery that there was in the states.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
but to tap into your creativity first and foremost, I always ask, what is the story that I'm trying to tell, and who's the audience that I'm trying to reach, and in what way I'm trying to reach. Am I trying to entertain? Am I trying to educate? Am I trying to do both at the same time? Am I trying to create an escape? A lot of the things that I do purposely, so I'll tackle each and individually thing that I do. Like makeup to me became something because I've drawn and painted my whole life. It came very natural to
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Okay. Seems like some technical difficulties here. All right. Yep. All right. So she definitely left. Okay. She's right back in.
Here, this is what is going on here. I'm
Yeah.
like, what happened?
Yeah.
What happens when you
Uh,
don't do live?
some, sometimes it could be the Wi-Fi. I don't know.
Okay,
It
okay,
happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, but you did the right thing. You just pop on, pop right back in. See?
I was like, huh? Where'd I go? Where'd I go? But now going to you, creativity, I start especially from where I know, and
Hmm.
and I choose the form that I'm trying to speak through, whether it's through the arts, as far as makeup, or as far as painting, or as far as my the hosting aspect, or even my stories that I've created and I produced and I've put on film. Um, I've always come from a personal perspective. I think when you make everything personal is where you give it meaning. Definitely. I always say have something that you want to put out there, as far as what are you trying to create? How are you trying to impact? What are you trying to say to the world? Um,
Hmm.
because to me, I think that's what art ends up serving. you know, as a form of communication. You know, if your art says
Mm-hmm.
nothing, what are you doing it for? You know, other than a hobby or leisure.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, every aspect of who I am and how I am creatively all
Mm-hmm.
serve a purpose individually. You know, to me, how I when I got cut off, I was talking about my makeup, my artistry. When I do makeup, it is a hustle on the side. Want to do makeup, or you only, you know, I'm not opposed to always being some sort of hand on set, you know, especially my own set.
Right.
I've had
Right.
to wear so many different hats. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm never like, nah, I'm not the producer. I'm not here to do make. No, I'm like, what do you need? Let me go ahead and do what I can. Um, but with makeup, I love the just the ability to give women confidence, to
Mm-hmm.
beautify, to make them give them the ability and the self-esteem that they maybe lacked 2 minutes ago. I think that's a gift that
Mm-hmm.
you give to all women. And I always would want to keep it giving. You know, that's what kind of drives me
Mm-hmm.
to stay in the makeup world.
Mm.
To give somebody, because as a makeup artist, you end up being a therapist, a friend,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a beauty advisor in so many
Mm-hmm.
levels, or just as simple as an ear to listen to whatever
Right.
mind or heartache that they have going. So that in itself, like creatively, they end up being kind of my muse, you know, where I
Mm-hmm.
end up um really just being a light in their life at that moment, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the arts, as far as painting and drawing, you know, I can actually go ahead and some, you know, that was a work that I did back in high school, back in my day, you know,
Mm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
portrait. But I can go ahead and see. Let me see how if I work it where I can. Do I flip the camera? See, so that's the project that I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on, and that's just something that I'm just sending out to the
Wow.
world. Be you, beloved. You know,
Wow.
that's one of
Wow.
the projects I'm working on. This is another that I'm working on where I have somewhat of how our pigment, you know, how
Mm-hmm.
people of color's pigment have been seen as a weapon, but on screen, but the weapon is what actually damages their pigment, you know. But the flowers,
Ooh.
you know, being always, no matter how much the pigment gets somewhat affected and somewhat scarred, our state of mind has to
Mm-hmm.
bloom even through the struggles. And that's
Wow.
kind of
Wow.
use flowers. So that's a progress, you know, still that I'm working on a project. But again, what am I trying to state? That's what really ends up feeding my creativity, the message, whatever message and the experience that I'm seeing. You know, I have a short that I
Mm-hmm.
did that I
I
shot.
might have to buy that from you. I may have to buy that one from you. All right.
I'm
Yeah.
good. I mean, and this is one of the things. It's like a lot of people
Hey,
are like, why don't you sell it? Why don't you this? And I was like, you know what? I am gonna
I might
sell.
have to buy that one. I
It's
might.
available. I'm telling you, it's just like this one that I made, which is
We got to
love.
support each other.
Yeah, like love is the human way. That's what I ended up
Mm.
putting in there. Kind of a tribute to how in Brooklyn, you know, it's like love is the Brooklyn way, and I'm like, nah, it's the human way. It's something that
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
need to tap into because we bleed the same color, you know.
Mm.
But to ultimately, the straight answer to your question, how do I tap into my creativity, is what story am I trying to tell from a personal
Mm-hmm.
perspective? What message am I trying to leave people with? And it's not, I never like to force feed anybody anything, you know. I
Yeah.
just want to leave
Mm-hmm.
you with kind of words that can make you think, that
Right.
could make you reflect. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection is one of the best things that we can, you know, we have as human beings, you know, to be able.
100%.
Yeah, so that's really, you know, the hosting, the way it ended up happening to me, it's just kind of like I fell into certain things little by little. You know, because for those that don't know, I started, you know, doing speech and debate and drama in high school. Then I went to Fordham
Mm-hmm.
University and I started acting here and there, and then went into the theater, and then I went into the Esper Studios to just get my craft and my training, and then started hitting different stages and
Mm-hmm.
going into different mediums like commercials, doing voiceover work, and then going into hosting. All of them kind of are hand in hand. They kind of dip into one another.
Mm-hmm.
But the major thing that I say is just to keep yourself polished and to always know that
Mm.
someone's hungrier.
Mm.
Someone's
That's
always
so powerful.
work harder.
And you are somebody that definitely it's hard to outwork you. Um,
Thank
you work hard, like but what I do know, especially coming from New York,
you.
you know, we have this thing where we grind and we grind and we grind and we grind, right? And they're always brought up with these slogans: "Can't stop, won't stop." Sleep is the cousin of death. Or I sleep when I'm dead. Stuff like that. You know, so I feel like that sometimes was irresponsible. You know, because there's no, it doesn't help our mental health a lot of times, and I think we find ourselves very run down,
Oh yeah,
and sometimes it's not about grind and grind, 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 grind. A lot of times it's about strategizing,
yeah.
maybe so you don't have to, you
You can
know,
work smarter,
work
not
so
harder.
hard. Like, of course, you know what I'm saying? And and yes, of course, there's a point in time for grinding. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like we glorify this team no sleep. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? And it's like, yo, when you get older, you realize, yo, I do need my sleep. And as as your body, as you get older, your
yeah,
body tells you that.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So what would be your advice, or just some examples about maybe just grinding a little bit, smarter, or grinding responsibly, you know, um,
Well,
to protect
I
your
could
health
tell
too? Because that, to me, that's major.
I could tell you I'm very guilty of being that New Yorker, that native New Yorker, where I grind until my
Yeah.
says, "Yo, no, you're
Hmm.
done. Hang it
Hmm.
up, hang it up." You know, I think I'm still learning. I don't by any means can say that I have the answers. I still have to learn to be able to create that time span. Like now, what I'm doing better is to give myself a certain amount of hours a day where I'm dedicating towards my work, and kind of
Mm.
like that whole 9 to 5. Because when you are an
Mm.
entrepreneur, when you are an artist, you're always consistently, your wheels are turning. You always are
Yes.
trying to figure out how you can create, how you can collaborate,
Hmm.
who can you like just contact, and keep yourself inspired, because I think inspiration is one of those things that a lot of people don't tend to put so much focus on, but it will definitely be the determining factor whether you are still interested or whether you're not.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I watch out for is where I give my energy to. You know, that was one thing that I ended up learning the hard way, where
Mm.
all of a sudden I started thinking about, okay, how many hours am I spending on this? How many hours am I spending on myself, on my spirit, on what gives me joy, um,
Mm.
as well as what I'm working on. So it's all about balance
Hmm.
and moderation. I
Hmm.
definitely am still guilty of kind of filling my plate up too much,
Hmm.
and and getting run down. Um, but when I get to those moments, meditation is key. I still try. It's difficult. It's difficult. I am in very much in awe of people that are able to meditate. But what I did learn is that not necessarily you don't necessarily always have to meditate. You can just, even if it's cleaning that soothes your mind. I'm a neat freak and I love to have everything spick and span, and to have some music, some candles lit, and just have and clean my space. of energy, of clutter. That helps me to keep
Mm.
myself balanced. And also when my mind is trying to race, because I think being a New
Mm-hmm.
Yorker, definitely I fall into, I go to New York and I fall into it, and I'm very much in it when I'm in
Yes.
LA as well. And anybody that knows me will always say, "Yo, you always stay working, you always stay grinding, you always stay going from one
Always.
point to another point." Um, and it is because that whole thing, like, I'm gonna sleep when I'm dead, and it's like, well, hold up, you need to sleep,
Mm. Yo,
and so
yo, I'm telling you, yo, it's rough because it's funny because, well, like I remember in 2013, I was telling my mom, I was like, yo, mom, I said, yo, you doing too much out here. I
yeah,
said, mom, you gotta chill. It's in my DNA. You know me. I said, I know. I said, but the way you going, I said, I feel like, I said, things can happen. I said, you gotta slow down a little bit. You
I,
know what I mean? I said,
she went through,
and then,
she went through her fair share.
but that's what I'm saying. But then a month later, she had a brain aneurysm. A month later, she had a
Yeah.
brain, and I was like, yo, I just finished saying, yo, mom, you gotta chill. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's like we don't listen until our body tells us, okay, yo, if you don't want to sit down, then I'm gonna sit you down.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna lay you down. And that's just kind of what it is. You know what I'm saying? So,
I'm still
I've always tried to, yeah, so I've always tried to keep that in the back of my mind, like grind and grind, but beware of your mental health and your physical health, and listen to your body, before something crazy happens to you. You know what I'm saying? So,
and
definitely.
I think also we don't really put that much focus on what we can do, like the supplements, like the vitamins, like eating right, like giving yourself the time to really enjoy the day. To
Hmm.
Because I know for me, I'm guilty. I'm something, and I'm thinking about what else do I need to do? Where am I? And I'm just like, oh, you're here. Just eat breakfast, watch the TV. Sometimes we feel guilty. Even I'm just like, oh, this could be important time that I could be dedicating to this, to where I can do more for what I'm working towards. And but then what do you end up with? You know what I'm saying?
And
Like,
as years pass by, like, time pass by, years pass by, and then you wake up and then you're like, man, I didn't really get a chance to enjoy anything. I didn't get a chance to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I didn't get a chance to enjoy what life is. You know what I'm saying? And I think, you know, being our generation, we kind of have to be cognizant of that. Like we really have to pay attention to those things and make sure that we do enjoy ourselves. You know what
totally.
I'm saying? And take the time out for our emotional health, our mental health. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that those things are A1.
Yeah.
Because some people put a lot of emphasis on the physical. So they be in the gym, which is nothing wrong with that. You should be in the gym. Well, not now, but exercising and doing all those things and making yourself make sure that you look physically appealing, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
know, but you're not doing nothing for up here. You're not doing nothing for your heart. You're not doing nothing for your mind, because you got some
Mm-hmm.
things that you haven't released yet. For like 20 years, you
Yeah.
haven't released those things, but you look good, and that's
Let me
cool.
tell
But
I always tell everybody, look, you need a good cry, you get a good cry. I got those good cry rides. I've had plenty of
Mhm.
those, like shower awaiting to exhale cries. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
just
Uh-huh.
one of those things where it's like there's beauty in vulnerability.
I
There
say it
is
all the time.
it's one of those things that make us human. No one is never ever phased about something. Someone's always phased about something at some point or another, whether it's, a family, friendships, love, heartache,
Hmm.
career, disappointments and challenges that we come about. Sometimes we do need to talk ourselves through. Um,
Yeah.
we need to talk ourselves off that ledge We do,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that I had planned didn't really pan out a lot of the times. And sometimes you really gotta know, yes, Raina, I'm saying there is strength and vulnerability a lot. And
Shout out to Lorraine. What's up, Lorraine?
and it's and it's
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that I feel for men, men a lot of the time, as women, we're already expected and able to be emotional and vulnerable. And when a man is like, "Ooh, you're needy. Ooh, you're clingy. Oh, you a bitch." Oh, there's so many different negative connotations um, associated with a man that
Mm-hmm.
is with his emotions. and
Emotions.
and I appreciate it. I'm like, be healthy. I'd rather you be open and let those emotions flow than it be pent up, you know? Because
And
once,
that's why I always talk about that. I always talk about the men in mental health. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's because this they like it, you touched on it perfectly because you guys have been on the self help, the personal development, the writing in the diaries, to being
Mhm.
expressive. Like women have been on that for a long time.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And have been encouraged to do that from a young age. And men haven't. You know, Men have just been told to, be quiet, man up, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Be
we
strong.
haven't been given oh yeah. And we haven't been, conditioned to really express, you know what I'm saying? To really express our feelings and emotions. And I'm trying to do my best to kind of reprogram, the other youth and just different men out there because we have to change the narrative around men and mental health too. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to be able to get to our young boys because here's my problem. By the time a guy's 25, 30 years old, he's gonna meet a nice, beautiful young lady, and you know what she's gonna say? Oh, he doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't express his emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but like,
I've dealt with my fair share.
has he ever? Right? And just because you got a pretty face and a nice body, it doesn't mean that's gonna change that. That's not gonna
Yeah.
change that. You know what I'm saying?
Not
That
at
has
all.
nothing to do with you, right? So
No.
it's just so it's just a thing of we've got to change the narrative around men and in mental health and stop feminizing every little thing. It's not feminine to write in a journal. You know what I'm saying? It's not
No.
feminine to express certain things. Like it's not feminine to express your feelings because how can you expect a man to express his love for you if maybe he never knew what love was or what love is or he never was taught to express those things in the first place.
One of the
You know what
things
I'm saying?
one of the things I always like to share with anybody, whether man or female, that
Hmm.
I always say, give yourself the freedom to express however you feel.
Hmm.
Regardless whether it might hurt, regardless whether it might be welcomed, because this is why for me is that we definitely, you can't control your emotions. So
Hmm.
if you can control them, there'll be a lot of happy people in this world, you know?
Hmm.
So like if
Hmm.
there is something that you can't control, then why try to? Why try to
Hmm.
hide or stunt its growth? I will always um try to, and I'm very fortunate because I can tell you I come from a family members that my brothers cry. My older
Hmm.
brother, who's his birthday today. Happy birthday, bro.
Shout out to your brothers, man. I love those guys, man, for real.
It's just one of those things that my brother always, he wouldn't be able to put two words together in a speech without just bawling. And
Hmm.
I found it so weird when it came down to going to the world and realizing that that's not the norm,
It's different.
where you have to like pry people to like give
It's
you a
different.
little bit, and like Rudy said, emotional maturity. Everyone's
Hmm.
so emotionally immature. But I think it's immaturity comes a lot from obviously experience, right? Lack of experience or lack of teaching. But also
Hmm.
it's based on fear, you know. So many people fear rejection. Um,
Hmm.
And to me, I think you not giving a try is you never knowing the answer. And that's a worse type of
Mm-hmm.
rejection, the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
For me,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather express what I love, whether I love you, whether I want to be with you, whether I want something so wholeheartedly and it not panning out, and knowing that I gave it
Right.
my all, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't. You know, I've done the embarrassing things. I showed up to people's houses like, you know what I'm saying?
You
And
know,
it's
it's true. But it's just with men. I think it's different. It's just because for a lot of men, it's hard to express something that we never did before,
yeah,
right? And it's so hard. Like for a lot of men, you know what I'm saying? Me, I'm all about the. You know what? Listen, man. Like if I'm gonna feel a certain way, I'm gonna feel a certain way, and I'm gonna express it. You take it or leave it. That's just me. But that's not a lot of men. You know what I'm saying?
well,
And I'm not saying that to big me up at all. I'm just saying that it's something that needs to change. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And if you are at a place in your life that you can express and be vulnerable, then it's up to people like myself, you know what I'm saying, to spread that knowledge and to start giving that permission, you know what I'm saying, to speak to our young people and to speak to these young boys and get to them and say, hey, listen, whatever you've been told, you gotta throw it out the window because it's false. You know what I'm saying? Because it comes from a lot of the old school generational rhetoric, you know what I mean, about what a man is, what and what his
yeah.
value system really is. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I don't subscribe to because it's so generational. Like
Very
it's really
generational.
bad.
Very generational. And I think for it's it's unfortunate because I think what a lot of it comes from, it also is the fact that a lot of times, like you said, you were never asked how you're feeling. So
Hmm.
therefore, how are you able to answer it for yourself? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I've had people who were like, "Well, what do you feel?" And they're just like, I don't know." A lot of
Hmm.
people don't know how to answer that question. You know,
Hmm.
I just did. I just went back to work on Wednesday and to do the Latin Dish podcast that I host. I'm one of the hosts on there, and the producer had shared with us how in doing another program, another show, he said, you know, he asked several women, you know, how do you know how you're happy? Like, how do
Hmm.
you know how you feel, how someone makes you feel? And he was like
Yep.
amazed how so many people couldn't answer that question for
Mm.
themselves. How
Right.
some people, and I can tell you, I think that's a valid question because I think sometimes we go through life in so many of the motions, you know, through every day-to-day thing that we don't stop and take a moment and really ask ourselves, how are we feeling? How are we? You know, a lot of people are in relationships
Hmm.
where they're just going through the motions. They're going through their work day. They're going through watching the TV. They're going through eating together. They're going through so many, and a lot of them are being kind of distracted also by everything that's happening in the world aside from their own experience and their own day to day, that they don't ever really ask, am I happy in this
Hmm. Hmm.
situation?
Right.
Is does this
Hmm.
joy? I got to tell you, that was my biggest epiphany last year, towards the end of
Hmm.
the year, where I made it a point this year to consistently ask myself and to consistently protect it. And it's
Mm.
what brings me joy.
Mm.
And anyone or anything that takes away my joy, I'm no longer entertaining. I'm no
Mm.
longer giving it time. I'm no longer giving it the opportunity to take away what makes me the happiest at that very moment. Because I'm not saying,
Right.
no way am I saying everything's freaking roses and berries. You know, there's life is all filled with struggles and tribulations.
Hmm.
But
Of course.
very much say that whenever I find that moment of happiness, whether it's, you know, a fragrance, whether it's like burning a candle, whether it's, you know, a time to myself and journaling, like you said.
Hmm.
If I get a call and I'm like, yeah, no, this is going to take away my joy right now, then I'm having this joy journaling this in. So let me
Hmm.
let me keep this journal going. So I can,
Facts.
if anybody's coming to blood suck my energy, my time, my spirit, because one of the best things that I was actually going to post today is that negative people will always find a problem to the solution.
Say that one more time, please.
Negative people will always find a problem to the solution.
Wow. That's a quotable right there. You got to post that. As soon as you post it, I'm going to repost it. As soon as you post it, I'm repost it.
No worries.
And that's that's amazing.
And I've been in situations where all of a sudden I'm like, yo, so why don't we do, no, that's not gonna, this is, and I'm just like, okay, what about this? And like, no, that ain't either. And I'm just like, well, what do you got? Give me a, like, I'm giving all these solutions and all these different, I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they're great, but you knocking them down left and right. So what is your option? What do you offer?
Right.
Right. That's why I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, no, negative Nancy. No, you need to step out. So
You know what's funny is I got an epiphany too one day and this is when I said to myself, we have to start asking our friends and family different types of questions because there's always that one question, that routine questions. So how you doing? I'm all right, cool. Right? And so but it's like it doesn't require me to really think much, but I just say, oh yeah, no, I'm cool. So one day, one of my friends, she texts me and she goes, yo, T, how was your soul today?
Wow, I like that.
I said,
how is your soul today?
Yo, then my brain just started doing like 720s and 360s, and I was just like, man, well, how am I doing today? Like, it made me feel like, yo, I have to really stop and think about how the hell I'm feeling. Yeah. But if she asked me, yo, how you doing, T? I'd have been like, yeah, I'm straight. I'm good. But when she hit me with that other question, I said, yo, ain't nobody asked me this before. Like, nobody asked me that question before. Damn. And it made me think. So then I said, yo, I gotta start asking my friends different questions because the same old kind of like what you said, those routine questions, you kind of get the same routine answers.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. I was like, man, like we give the same routine answers because we get the same routine questions. So we start asking different questions, you might start getting different answers. Somebody said through text. Somebody said through text. That's a heavy question. Yeah, I know, but it made me think though. But I tell you, it made me think a lot.
I hate that question when it comes to text because it's so loaded. It's so loaded, and but then again, it's so easy to just dismiss, like you said.
Right.
Yeah, I'm straight. I'm good.
I'm good.
I've been okay. And wow, you're just like, dude, like I nearly died. I'm trying to get back into my world.
Facts.
There's so many things that happen that I'm just like, how am I doing? I don't even know. I still haven't even put it together to know whether I'm okay or I'm not. So
I'm telling you,
it's really interesting how we have these questions, and you're right. Rephrasing the question is very important because one of the things I like to ask people is, what's making you happy lately? It's one of those that I'm like, ooh, okay. And that was something that I made myself at, I asked myself at this point, like, what really do we want to answer? Like, how is it? Rudy says we also want to hear the answer to the question we ask. Really mean what we ask. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be willing to want to hear the answer. 100%.
Yes.
110%.
And I want to say, when I started asking myself and saying how I'm doing, what's making me happy, I was like, ooh, okay, my art is making me happy. My conversations with my mom is making me happy. you know. And also, I think I had a person say, I know she was speaking about what she wants, which was really interesting because she had said, I was just like, what do you want? And a friend of mine, she was just like, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And I was like, well,
Mm.
that that's part okay, and not, and I think it's really smart in not knowing and knowing what you don't want. But I think it's also
Hmm.
important to learn what you do want. And
Yes.
what do you want in your career? What do you want in the friendships that you have around you? What do you want in the in your family, in your everyday to day? What do you want to really strive for? Is really really important. Um,
Right.
but again, what makes you happy? What? Because it could be simple. I'm very simple. Like you give me good food and a glass of wine and some music, jolly as I could be. You know.
Speaking of food, I see what you be doing now on IG Live. I peeped the food game. I might be down there in a couple of weeks, so I see what you're doing. You picked a good time to start posting some food,
Yes.
now I know I have to be up there in 2 weeks. So
Well, I can
yo,
tell. I love to cook, and again, because that ended up happening from a friend of mine, who she always stops by. We always, break bread. I'm always cooking. She's like, "Girl, you stay cooking all these different dishes that taste so different," and I kind of am so used to cooking the same similar cuisine. And she asked me like, "How do you know these things?" And I was like, "I just love spices. Like when I traveled, I bought a lot of spices." Um,
mhm,
and you don't really just try different things. Let me see. When
mhm,
you have a win, you
mhm,
won't even realize it with a focus on only one thing you don't want. That's true.
mhm. True, very true,
Yeah, and
very very true.
you tend to not really enjoy. You tend
Hmm.
to enjoy that win. I think so many times people are so focused on the end result that they're
Right,
working towards that they don't really see the strides that they're making.
true.
Yeah.
Um, so we got like 12 minutes left, so I kind of want to make sure that we touch on this, man, because you're somebody who always perseveres. Like you're one of the strongest people that I know. Um, and unfortunately, you were touched with the COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
um, the coronavirus, and so what was that like for you? Like when you first went through it and you got it, and then now, of course, thankfully, thank God, like you're on a much better, you know, plan of trajectory here for your life and for your health. So, what was that process like for you?
It was very difficult.
Hmm.
By no means I'm gonna sugarcoat it. I first started getting symptoms on March 13th, March 15th, March 17th. That's
Hmm.
light headaches. Um,
Hmm.
I thought it was lack of sleep. I thought it was maybe not eating because, like I said, I do run myself
Hmm.
around. I was
Hmm.
around a lot within my doing my projects, auditioning, and
Hmm.
I was in the studio. I was in Universal Studios on the 11th, shadowing a director in a series, AP Bio, which was just a great experience. But that's why I felt like I was like, okay, I was run down. I was being run down. So I never attributed my early symptoms to it being COVID. I just thought it was lack of sleep and food deprivation.
Hmm.
Once we got in lockdown and then I started to develop a cough, and I started to getting a lot of sinus pressure, um, and around March 28th, I started just having a lot of congestion in kind of my sinus area. I was being very optimistic and keeping my mind sane because obviously everything and anything was telling you if you had it, you're going to die. So
Yep.
I was trying to keep my spirit positive and my mind um, just in a good, healthy mental state. And when it came down to April 1st, I woke up without any sense of smell or taste. And I started to spiral. Like I was being very, very meticulous about just cleaning and disinfecting. So I started to bleach my counters, and I wasn't smelling the Clorox, and I wasn't smelling. Then I started rubbing alcohol
That's crazy.
candles and everything around me, and it all of a sudden dawned on to me like, okay, this isn't normal. I called my physician. She basically told me to keep doing what I was doing, which was drinking the high teas, heavy teas, gargling, salt water, apple cider vinegar, the heavy soups, doing the whole humidifier, having the oils, the natural oils like the peppermint oil and the oregano oils. It was it wasn't up until, I did lose a friend April 1st as well, Francisco Fuertes, who was one of my mentors in the acting world, to COVID in New
Wow.
York. Um, I also was
Condolences.
FaceTiming another friend of mine, Yamin, who was in the hospital with COVID. And he was, shout outs to him, because I don't know if he knew that he was serving as such a inspiration for me to keep going and staying positive, because he was at a far worse position. He was doing the air mask. He was in the hospital for over 2 weeks. He had
Wow.
pneumonia. We were watching Ozark, FaceTiming each other to keep our mind and be like, oh, that bitch, his wife, she's such
Mhm.
an asshole. I want to say, for those watching that do find themselves in that position where they are infected, to stay positive, to stay active. I did notice how I was feeling when I was laying down and trying to get rest, as opposed to how I was when I was walking around my apartment, when I was trying to cook. And believe me, trying to cook without a sense of smell, I don't recommend it. It ain't wise. Shit will burn. You won't even know it, because that shit happens. Um,
Mhm.
but it is something that my mom called me, because when I lost my friend the same day I lost my sense of smell, I gotta say I started spiraling. I gotta be honest.
Mhm.
Everything, I shut off the TVs, the social medias, everything. I was
Mhm.
my mind in positive spirits, because everything was negative. Everything
Yeah.
you're hearing and you're digesting is telling most people don't survive this. Um,
Mhm.
I was about 6, 7 weeks without sense of smell or taste.
Mm.
I it started to affect my breathing. I felt tightness in my chest. I called and I Skyped with a doctor virtual, because I didn't want to go to the hospital. I definitely was like, if I go to
Right.
the hospital and they don't let me out, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go buck wild on somebody.
Mhm.
um, so I tried to quarantine as much as possible. I did end up going to urgent care, because my condition of my lungs started to worry me. Thankfully, they were
Mhm.
clear. Um,
Mm.
I eventually tested negative for COVID. I tested positive for the antibodies, so I do have the antibodies. I don't feel that you are immune to it, um, because I did get sick back in January, and I did end up having the same symptoms in January, and I did
Uh,
end up going to the hospital, and they did end up putting me on oxygen and albuterol, and they told me
wow.
that they diagnosed me. So I luckily,
Wow.
due to that emergency visit, I had
Mhm.
the proper medications that they were already prescribing to me the second time around that I fell ill, which was late March into all of April,
Wow.
May. Um,
Mm.
so one of the things that I can honestly say that helped me a lot, the teas helped me a lot. Um,
Mhm.
the vitamins helped me a lot. The hot steam showers helped me a lot. But the game changer was the albuterol. When they
Mm.
prescribed the albuterol that I already had from back in January, but never used it then, but had
Right.
but depended on it. Just
Wow. Hmm.
around. I was pumping myself, like just to fall asleep. I would pump myself at midnight, and then I would be woken up from all the coughing and the feeling of the tightness in my chest to pump myself again in
Wow.
the morning. By no means was it an easy journey. It's still difficult. My sense of smell is
Hmm.
100%. Um,
Wow.
I do feel like I tell people I do feel like I'm in a bit of a fog sometimes. So I do feel like if I'm like falling back, from the people that I've spoken to, that I know that have had it, they feel very similar symptoms where they feel like
Mm.
they're thing. My personal opinion, I think this stays with you, like chickenpox. Kind of stays dormant, um, and kind of it's an everyday to day battle. But again,
Mm.
I'm not letting it take me. I'm not letting it take my mind, my spirit, and
I
my
already know.
joy. I'm just like, this is just gonna
Hmm.
be stronger. Um,
Mm.
and by no means am I gonna say that it wasn't extremely difficult. It was extremely
Hmm.
difficult. Keeping myself positive was very hard sometimes.
Hmm.
And I just clinged on to the people that I love and that I cared about, like who checked on me, and like my family,
Hmm.
friends that reached out, and I told them how I was doing. My cousin had it, so he
Mm.
definitely calling me every other day to see how I was doing, if I was better, if what else, tell me what worked for him that could
Wow.
work. But in the end, my heart goes out to anybody and everybody that's going through it, anybody that's
Mm.
a member that gone through it or that continues to go through it or that has passed
Hmm.
away. I feel very angry sometimes when people think that it's a joke, when people think it's a
Hmm.
conspiracy, when people think it's not real. Um, I I definitely question humanity a lot of the times because I feel
Hmm.
we get to
Hmm.
a point where I think if it doesn't affect you personally, you start to feel like it's not right.
Hmm. Right.
And it's like, how did we get here?
Hmm.
Get
Well, we know how we got here. That's another topic for another day. Uh, um, um, so we got literally like 2 minutes left. So tell people where they can reach you, what projects you're working on. You know what I'm saying? Where they can catch you, your work, anything like that.
So you can definitely reach me. The easiest way is Instagram. My Facebook, I check it every now and then, but Facebook has so many different with Instant Messenger, it changed it all up for me. I was like, where am I going? Where did it pop up? So I'm sorry if I don't
Hmm.
get back to you on Facebook, but it's a little difficult for me to handle. But the best is IG. I'm being a little bit better at posting. Um,
Yes.
Definitely not. It doesn't come, tech. You could speak on it, T. I'm not tech savvy, and I don't understand why these apps don't have everything built in. Like, I need a reposting app, I need a imaging, like all these different apps along with the app. So
Yes.
it's a difficult thing for me to get to. But if you send me a message via IG, believe you me, I will get back to you. I have, my attention, like we all have, it's ADD sometimes. I'll start to type up a message and all of a sudden be distracted and then think I press send. So don't take it personally. Send me another message,
Hmm.
be like, hey, did you get that? Because then I'll be like, oh,
Yep.
okay, yeah, sorry about that. And projects that I'm working
Good.
on, I have personal projects that I'm working on. Couple of three shorts that are basically just inches away. They're in different stages. First and foremost is Direct Connect, which is a gamer girl trying to find love in the socially media
Hmm.
driven world. Um, the second is Black is the New Brown. It's take a look at the world,
Hmm.
casting world and explaining why.
I I hate to cut you, but we got 10 seconds left.
It's the
We
attention.
got 7 seconds left.
Yo,
Thank
the
you for
IG
doing
is
this with
the
me.
best place.